The universe goes in the direction of sugar dissolving, the dissolution. This is a non-reversible thermodynamic process from the viewpoint of physics. It cannot be reversed in time. Like frying the egg. After we fry the egg, we cannot put it back in the shell. And all such processes appear to influence gravity by strange reasons that even Professor Kozyrov wasn't very sure about at the beginning. After that, he arrived at a very general theory about gravity that has been experimented with by several other Russian academicians, and they do the experiments right now. De Palma, another scientist with background from MIT and Stanford, and teaching experience at MIT. He was a physics lecturer at MIT. He started investigating 20-30 years ago the problems of rotation, and particularly the rotating unipolar or one-pole Faraday generator, Faraday dynamo. There is a copper disc sandwiched between two magnet discs, magnet donuts, spun on a shaft, and you have two brushes. One brush is touching the shaft, the other brush is touching the periphery of the disc, and a potential difference of 1 volt appears here. Unlike normal generators that have drag because the magnetic field of the rotor acts like a magnetic glue dragging with the magnetic field of the stator, and it's very difficult to turn them, and that's why all the power of the turbines driving the generators in the electrical stations, a lot of it goes for overcoming this drag. Unlike that, this generator you can spin by hand and there is no drag. Basically the drag is zero, whether there is load or there is no load. No physicist can explain that. Current physics as we know it, the party line university academic physics cannot explain that.
There's no cutting of lines of force by that generator.
Exactly. It probably cuts the etheric lines of force of the planet, but there is no ether according to modern science. So, ergo, this generator cannot exist. And if it does, the guy is a crackpot. And off goes De Palma out of the university. So his experiments involved collision experiments where two cartridges loaded with weights, one will be with a gyro, another one just with a weight, will be collided with each other. And when the gyro spins and when the gyro doesn't spin, this gyro cartridge behaves as if it has different mass. So spinning obviously influences the mass of that cartridge. This carriage, I'm sorry, this is a very simple wheel carriage. They do this is a high school physics we're talking about. You collide two things and then measure the impulse, measure the momentum, measure the velocity and so on. When the gyro spins and when the gyro doesn't spin, the carriage behaves as if it has a different mass. Then he put a gyro on a pendulum and started swinging it. And the pendulum has its frequency of swinging which is constant. The height of the swinging can change, but the frequency remains constant. That's why we can measure time, because of this fundamental and unexplainable property of the pendulum. And it can be basically demonstrated with formulas, but nobody knows why these things happen. These are the most fundamental secrets of nature. Even the Platonians don't know why electricity flows. What electricity is, they can use it far better than we do, but even for them it's a big puzzle. So this pendulum swinging with the gyro spinning and not spinning, it has different frequency. It means that again the mass changed. Then, if you approach an electric clock, quartz clock, next to a spinning gyro, it lags, increases dramatically. It starts lagging behind by like 15 seconds a week instead of 1 second a month or something like that. If we approach a spinning gyro with a tuning fork, the tuning fork changes its pitch, which again, here in the form of the pitch, the mass of the fork is involved. So obviously the spinning gyro affects space-time continuum around itself and every object that's nearby. So that's the conclusion of Bruce de Palma's experiment, that rotation changes mass and weight. There was a brilliant article in the Flying Saucer Review Journal, a little bit of contactee accounts, that basically found that majority of the saucers observed spin, or something spins. Either the whole house spins or the outermost part of the house spins. Or if nothing spins outside, you would hear the noise of an electric generator or an electric drill, which are spinning electric machinery. If you don't hear any noise, you would see lights spinning around the craft. When the craft takes off, the frequency of spinning increases. Also, the lights may change their color because of the frequency of the light changing. So this initial hunch that I had many years ago, that because of the rotational symmetry maybe spinning is involved, was greatly reinforced here when I found an article by professional ufologists. Flying Saucer Review magazine is one of the top British and probably one of the top 5 world UFO journals, investigative journals, and I greatly admire everything they do. Not as good as Physical Review Letters, professional academic physics journal, but in the marginal schizoid reality of UFO literature, this is probably the best there is. And so I was astonished to find something that I had heard so many years earlier, that basically spinning may be associated with flying saucers. Then I went to my massive UFO contactee database. In the book and film, the film is called UFOs, It Has Begun. The book is called UFOs Past, Present, and Future. They talk about a San Diego dock worker that asked his aliens, how the hell do their saucers fly? And they say, oh, it's very simple, it's a flying electric motor. The rotor, the red one, spins one way according to along a vertical axis. The whole stator, the blue one, spins the other way. And the cabin on top is gyroscopically stabilized so that the pilots would not spin into insanity with the cabin. Such a construction explains the crop circle whirlwinds, which is a field of rotating electromagnetogravitic and etheric vortex under the anti-gravity drive of the craft, which is basically an electric motor. If we have a big electric motor, flat motor, spinning over growing grass, I wouldn't be amazed that the grass would assume the same crop circle type formation, even with the a lot lower intensity of the field of electric motor. We can't produce, at least our official science and technology cannot produce such strong fields as you can produce under an anti-gravity drive. So one of the contactee accounts talks about anti-gravity saucers being powered like an flying electric motor. This is a very interesting contactee account from Red China. And here, unlike in Britain where the crop circle is on the surface, on the ground, here the drive of the craft affects space-time and the atmosphere in such a way that we have a circle formation on the underside of the craft. We have a white and a black forces chasing each other in a kind of a never-ending yin and yang frenzy, ever chasing and never reaching each other. This is a rotational dipole. The yin and yang is basically a rotational dipolar vortex.